I just really hate when a bitch be like, oh yeah, you know not to play with me. Who? Bitch, I'm finna EA Sports. It's in the game. Yo, I just...
This argument in the parking lot of a Lauder Hill apartment complex tragically turned deadly Christmas night.
You ain't did none of this.
Police officers say they found a woman dead at the Sunny Lake Apartments after neighbors got into an argument.
Christmas music, laughter echoing off apartment walls, the smell of barbecue in the air. It's 10:30 p.m. on December 25th, 2024, and families are still outside celebrating in the parking lot of Sunny Lake Apartments in Lauder Hill, Florida. And then a gunshot. By the time police arrive, a 36-year-old woman named Octavia Stewart is lying on the pavement, dead. Her wife screaming, her sister frozen. The person who pulled the trigger didn't run, he stayed, waiting for the cops. And as of right now, he hasn't been arrested because according to Florida law, he might not have done anything wrong. The argument that ended Octavia's life started over a parking spot, but it lasted all day, from morning until that gunshot at 10:30 p.m. And by nighttime, multiple people were involved. Multiple guns were present. The man who shot Octavia claims self-defense under Florida's Stand Your Ground law, and now the state attorney's office is trying to figure out if a woman is dead because of legitimate self-defense or because someone's pride was worth more than her life. So here's the question. If this was really just about a parking spot, why did someone bring a gun to a Christmas party? This didn't happen in some high-crime area. This happened in a regular apartment complex where neighbors know each other's names, and that's what makes it terrifying, because the ingredients were simple. Pride, alcohol, proximity, and a firearm. Have you ever had a neighbor who made your blood boil? Someone who parked in your spot or talked to you the wrong way? Most of us let it go, but what happens when someone doesn't? What happens when both people refuse to back down, and by nighttime someone has a gun? Hit subscribe if you want to understand how arguments like this end before they start, or skip it and come back to the comments later to tell me why you're so sure this would never happen to you, because Octavia Stewart probably thought the same thing. The shooter is walking around free right now because Florida law might protect him. So before we continue, would you die over a parking spot or would you walk away? Welcome to True Crime Footprint, where we unveil the darkest mysteries and the most terrifying true crime tales. Kindly hit that like button, subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification bell so you never miss any of our new stories. Your support keeps these stories alive. Her name was Octavia Stewart, but everyone at Sunny Lake Apartments knew her as Tay, a 36-year-old wife, mother, and sister who didn't start trouble but didn't run from it either. On Christmas Day, she was celebrating outside with her family because when it's 75 degrees in South Florida, staying indoors feels wrong. And the parking lot at Sunny Lake is where life happens, where kids play, where neighbors catch up, and where on holidays, tensions rise. Tay had been dealing with friction for weeks, small stuff that never got resolved because no one thought it was serious enough. But on this Christmas, a man showed up, a visitor celebrating with his family, and somehow he and Tay ended up in an argument that would last all day. At first, it was about parking. He wanted a spot she was using or vice versa, but by evening it wasn't about the spot anymore. It was about pride, about who would stand their ground and who would walk away looking weak in front of family. People were drinking, the celebration had been going on for hours, and in that environment inhibitions drop, tempers rise, and small disagreements feel like personal attacks. By sunset the argument had pulled in more people, Tay's wife, her sister, the visitor's family, and according to witnesses, there were guns. Multiple people armed in a crowded parking lot full of families. Tay wasn't backing down because this was her home. The man wasn't backing down because he felt disrespected. And that's the thing about pride. It doesn't care about logic or safety. It only cares about winning. If Tay represents the person who stood up for herself even when things got heated, hit that like button, because what happens next is why pride is one of the most dangerous emotions. And if you think you would have handled it better, drop a comment and tell me how you would have de-escalated an all-day argument with someone who won't back down, because I genuinely want to know. By 10 p.m., the parking lot was a powder keg, multiple people, multiple guns, and one person about to make a decision that would end a life. So if you were Tay, would you stand your ground or let it go? 10:30 p.m., the argument hits its breaking point. Witnesses heard what sounded like an explosion, A gunshot cutting through the music and laughter. And then people started running, families scrambling, kids crying, someone screaming to call 911. Octavia Stewart was on the ground, one gunshot wound, and by the time paramedics arrived, there was nothing they could do. She was pronounced dead at the scene on Christmas night in her own parking lot. Her wife stood over her, too devastated to speak, her sister frozen.
Off the top here at 10 o'clock, video of a heated argument between neighbors, and this face-off would turn fatal. Hello and welcome, everyone. That dispute turning deadly.
It did, and it began when a woman pulled out a gun. The night team's Maricela Burgos is live at Lauder Hill Police Headquarters with more. Maricela.
Joe, and we do have new information. Police have identified the woman who was killed as 36-year-old Octavia Stewart. Now, this did start as an argument, and there is cell phone video. You'll see some of it. We paused it because it's very graphic. This argument in the parking lot of a Lauder Hill apartment complex tragically turned deadly Christmas night.
You ain't did none of this shit.
Police officers say they found a woman dead at the Sunny Lake Apartments after neighbors got into an argument. During the argument, you can clearly see a woman in an orange dress on cell phone video with a gun in her hand. Then she raised the gun up, pointing it. We paused the video because it's too graphic. You then see a man shoot her as people screamed.
In reference to someone that was suffering from a gunshot wound to the head, the caller is a passerby.
Neighbors say the argument between people at two apartments had started over loud music and parking. They say the tension had been boiling for more than a day. Now, police say they have identified everyone who was involved in this, including witnesses. They say all of them are cooperating. No one has been arrested. Lauder Hill police detectives are still investigating this case. So if you have any information, call Broward County Crime Stoppers at numbers 954-493-TIPS.
And the man who pulled the trigger stood nearby, calm, waiting for police. He didn't run, didn't hide the weapon. He told officers exactly what happened. And here's where this case gets complicated. He isn't in jail because in Florida, if you prove self-defense, you don't just get a lighter sentence. You get immunity, no trial, no jury, you walk free. It's called stand your ground. The shooter claims he felt threatened, that Tay or someone in her group was about to hurt him. So he fired, one shot, one life taken. Now the Broward County State Attorney's Office is reviewing witness statements, forensics, the timeline, trying to decide if this was murder or justified self-defense. And until they decide, the shooter is free while Tay's family plans a funeral. Police said there's no ongoing threat, but residents of Sunny Lake don't feel safe because the threat is knowing you can argue with a neighbor over parking and end up dead, and the person who killed you might never see a courtroom. Tay's family lost her on Christmas, a day that should be about joy, and now every Christmas will be tied to her lying in that parking lot. If someone you love was killed and the shooter wasn't arrested because of self-defense claims, would you trust the system or feel like justice was being stolen? If you think Tay's family deserves justice, if you think people need to understand how Stand Your Ground works, hit subscribe. And if you think the system is broken, share this video or come to the comments and tell me why you think the shooter was justified. The state attorney must decide, was this murder or self-defense? And if you were on a jury with an unarmed victim, would you convict or let him walk? Florida Statute 770.112 is why Tay's killer isn't in jail. Here's how it works. If you're where you have a legal right to be and believe someone will kill you or cause great bodily harm, you can use deadly force without retreating. You can stand your ground. The problem is great bodily harm is subjective, defined by what you reasonably believed in that moment, and reasonable can mean almost anything. If the shooter convinces a judge he thought Tay or someone near her would hurt him, he gets immunity, no charges, no trial, nothing. And the burden of proof is on the state to prove he wasn't justified with clear and convincing evidence, a very high bar. The state attorney is asking who started it, who escalated, who was armed, who made the first move. And if those answers are unclear, if there's any possibility the shooter felt threatened, the case falls apart because in Florida, doubt favors the gun holder. Stand your ground has been used in hundreds of Florida cases. Some were clear self-defense, but others were bar fights, road rage, neighbor disputes where someone decided a bullet was the quickest solution, and in every case, someone died and someone walked free. If you're still not subscribed, go to the comments and tell me why. Maybe you want better content. Maybe you think we're biased. Maybe you don't care. Because if you're not subscribing, you'll miss stories where the legal system fails victims, and I want to know if that bothers you. Or if Tay's story matters to you. If you think people need to understand the stand your ground, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. The state attorney could rule this justifiable homicide any day. And if they do, Tay's family gets no trial, no accountability, just a letter saying the case is closed. So if the law protects the gun holder, did the unarmed person ever have a chance? The state attorney hasn't decided yet. They could charge second-degree murder, manslaughter, or rule it justifiable homicide. And if they rule justifiable, Tay's family gets nothing. No trial, no closure. If they charge him, he'll file for stand your ground immunity. And if granted, the case ends with no jury. Tay's wife can barely speak. Her sister is traumatized. They're waiting and hoping, trusting a system that doesn't always side with victims. And they lost her on Christmas, a day forever tied to tragedy. Here are 2 lessons to prevent this. First, trust your instincts, but don't let pride overrule them. If an argument escalates and feels physical, leave. Your life is worth more than your ego. Tay stood her ground because she felt disrespected, but standing your ground means nothing if you're not alive. Second, understand your state's laws. If you live in a stand your ground state, assume the person you're arguing with might be armed and might use that weapon if they feel threatened. The law doesn't care about fairness, it cares about perceived threat. Octavia Stewart didn't deserve to die. She was celebrating Christmas when a dispute that should have ended with an eye roll ended with a bullet. Her death reminds us that in America, the line between argument and homicide is razor thin, and in Florida, that line is almost invisible. If this made you think or feel something, share it, because the algorithm doesn't care about justice, but you do. Hit subscribe if you believe stories like Tays need to be told, turn on notifications, and if you're still unsure, comment what it would take to subscribe. I'm reading everyone. What's your take? Was the shooter justified, or is this a system failure? Drop your thoughts below. If Tay had walked away, would she still be alive, or was the person with the gun always going to pull the trigger? Our hearts ache for Octavia's family. Words feel inadequate, but please know you are held in deepest sympathy and prayers. May you find strength and comfort in the memories of Octavia. To everyone who made it to the end, thank you for watching, for your attention, and for joining us on this journey of reflection. Stay informed, stay vigilant, and above all, stay safe. See you on our next video.